A few months ago now, I put up a video on the YouTube channel, which is where you are now, but you could be on our new Substack page, and the details for that will be in the description and show notes at the bottom of the screen, because I'm trying to move away from YouTube because it's part of the learning curve I've had over the last 4 years of being here, which does relate back to this original video that I did about moving from the UK to Hungary. Hopefully it's all going to make sense. And what I wanted to do in this video is just to give you a bit of an update as to what's going on here for us, in particular for me, and how I get around dealing with the things that I need to deal with either on a yearly, monthly, or weekly, and sometimes daily basis. And I've made notes. Now, like I said in the last video, I spoke about my paperwork exercise and buying the house and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I made a few financial mistakes there when I said we bought the place for 10 grand when it was actually 20. So once again, apologies for that. But then moving forward, normal living here. And the first thing we have to consider is transportation for us. Now, I'm going to be doing a comparison between here and the UK, obviously being an Englishman, and also because I can't really tell you what it's like in America. So if you've got any opinions on what I'm about to go through based in your own country, please do feel free to leave any comments in the section below, and because it'd be great to find out what it's like elsewhere. So transportation. So we live just outside of the village, and we do need transport to walk into the village, which is approximately 2.5 kilometers away, which is what, a mile and a bit. Takes about 15-20 minutes. It's not too bad. It's not hilly around here. But if you want to go shopping, you really do need a car. And you certainly don't want to go and do your weekly shopping in the village. And we'll come on to that in a second. So you buy a car. Now, here's the first thing. Cars in this country are double the price of what they are in the UK. And an example I'm going to give to you is that we've just recently purchased a Volkswagen Touran, 2008 model. It's a diesel. And I paid 5 grand for that here. And in the UK, the highest or the best one I could find on the same mileage, same condition, is about £2,500. Some are even less, but that's the closest I could get. So straight away, there's a difference. Now, I knew that before I came to Hungary. And I came across here with a 3-litre diesel Jeep. Unfortunately, the idea was to have it re-registered in this country, but I was given some duff information, and in the end, I wasn't able to actually register it here. But it is possible. On a side note, which I find quite amusing, I often drive around the area and I see English registered cars. In fact, when we first came here, in our first week or so being here, I found one in the local village, and I thought, bloody hell, there's an English fella living in the same area as me. Went up to speak to the chap. Yeah, he's Hungarian. And it's happened to me a few times. And this is basically because a lot of Hungarians that live and work in the UK often buy a car there because it is much cheaper, as I've already mentioned, and bring it back. Now, what they do with it after that, I don't know. But there you go. There is a difference in the price. When you buy a car here, it's not like the UK where you just fill in the logbook, send it off to DVLA, and you get the new logbook. Here, you've got to complete paperwork. And there's about 4 pages of the stuff, and it's done in triplicate. It takes ages. So the seller gets one, the buyer gets one, and another one is sent off to the government for the paperwork to be processed accordingly. And you get a little green card, plastic card that comes in the post, goes in the car, proof of ownership. But once you bought the car, you've then got to go and get it inspected by a guy who then does the following. He checks the VIN number to make sure it's legit, that it's not been a cut and shut. He goes through the whole thing with a fine-tooth comb, and you pay about £130 for that privilege. Again, in the UK, you don't do that. It's just that logbook exchange. That's it. End of story. With the case of road tax here, which you pay every year, which I'm going to look at my notes because I need to double check. It's roughly about the same kind of price as the UK, as in lower tax bands. So we're looking around about £100 a year for road tax. I know in the UK, depending on the pollutant levels of the car, the Jeep, for example, would have been £500 a year. But here it's a standard rate, kind of. It is based on what they call the power output of the car, measured in watts or kilowatts. The Touran, for example, here is 74. The higher the power, the more tax you pay. But as an average, it's around about £100 a year. MOTs in the UK are yearly, and they're £54 approximately at the time of recording. Here you have the equivalent. It's called a technical, and it's every 2 years, and it's just a little bit less, but let's say on average it's around about the same kind of price. Insurance is an interesting one here. Your basic insurance that's available to you is what we would call third-party fire and theft. In other words, if you have an accident and it's your fault, the insurance company pays for the repairs of the damage of the car that you've caused it to. I tried to ask the lady of the house today, what about your own damage? She seems to think we'd have to pay that ourselves. Okay, now in the UK, you can have fully comp where everything's covered. But if you look at the equivalent third-party fire and theft there, where is my... okay, so here it's 50% less than it is in the UK. What about the cost of the diesel or the petrol? There's not much in it. It's about 10 pence a litre cheaper here than it is there, as an average. And again, that fluctuates constantly. Another form of transport here is a push bike. It's very, very common to see people cycling into the village because there's a tradition here, and I'm pretty sure it's the same in a lot of European countries, where people seem to go shopping every morning to collect the freshly baked loaf of bread, maybe a bottle of milk, that kind of stuff. So going on the bike, especially weather like this, isn't much of a hardship. But in the village itself, it's very well served with the National Bus Company. Fairly regular. I think there's one every hour and a half or so to take you to the two major towns, Keshkemét to the west, or Felixhausen down to the east of us here. So again, pretty well served. And then when you get into the towns, you have access to the railway network. Having said that, there is a rail station not far from us, just on the outskirts of the village here, which you could get to by bike if you wanted to, and that would take you to the two main towns I've already mentioned. But it's a more local train, so it stops at every station, as opposed to the high speeds that go from the main towns up to, say, Budapest, for example, or down south towards Szeged. So what I've noticed with those trains is they look pretty basic. The cost of the fares is relatively cheap, but there's one thing I have noticed. They are always on time. If Anna wants to go up to Vats, which is via Budapest, when she comes back by train, she tells me she's going to be there at 8:30. I'm outside the railway station in the car. 8:30, that train arrives. The only time I've experienced a delay is really when there's been outside the control of the railway company. You know, somebody throwing themselves on the line or a tree falling down. But that's a very rare occurrence. So generally speaking, they're on time. They run on time. So that's good. And it's very affordable. So why not take advantage of it? So that's the transportation out of the way. Now let's look at shopping. And I'm leaning on something here because I do quite a lot of online shopping. And I'll tell you why in just 1 second. But there isn't really for us here the opportunity to have an online grocery delivery from Tesco's or Waitrose or whatever, like I know a lot of people do in the UK. So we'll go to Felixhausen once a week, and I tend to go there on a Saturday morning and do it for two reasons. Number one is we buy sourdough bread from a baker in the town that's got sourdough that's at least 30 years old, so they tell us, and they just obviously keep, feeding it. And we buy 6 loaves of sourdough bread every week on a Saturday morning. It actually works out cheaper than buying the bread in the local co-op here. So yeah, we do have co-ops in Hungary, and we don't have Tesco's, and we have Lidl's and Aldi's, all the others. Anyway, I digress. Bread is sold here by the kilo. And like I say, the local bakeries here, the cost of that is around about the same price as the sourdough bread that we're getting in the town. And sourdough bread for us is much better for us. I actually don't feel as bloated as I would do if I've been eating the bread I'm used to in the UK. So that's a good plus. And also, a lot of people bang on about the health benefits of sourdough bread. So we go and buy 6. We don't consume 6 in a week, probably 2, maybe 3. And the others we take over to the daughter for her family. In addition to that, I'll then go to Lidl and I'll pick up stuff that I can't get for a good price here. So, for example, food for Jack the cat, and obviously food for the dog, Rada. That's one thing, and that's something I will buy for roughly about 3 or 4 weeks' supply because it's a one-off purchase. But every week, I will buy litre bottles of milk. Now, here's an interesting thing. Two parts to this. When I buy milk in the supermarket, the shelf life on that is 2 to 3 weeks. The cartons they come in are different to the ones I'm used to in the UK, which comes in a plastic bottle. These don't. There don't seem to be any additives to that milk. So why it's lasting longer than it does in the UK, I couldn't tell. I'm still investigating. And if I find out, I'll let you know. But the thing is that if I buy a litre of that milk in, say, Lidl, it's 315 florins per litre in there, which is less than £1. The exchange rate at the moment of florin is 460 florins to £1. So you can do the maths. But if I want to buy that same milk in the local co-op in the village, I've got to pay 529. So it's well over £1. It's about £1.50 odd. So there's a big difference. So for me, with the shelf life of the milk, I can buy enough for us to use during the week, which is 4 litres, sometimes less, and the same quantity for Anna's daughter, called Anna, for her to use during the week, for her and the 3 kids. In addition to that, because we've moved away from things like margarine and we look at real butter here per, I think it's 250 grams, costs us around about £2 a pack. Butter is better than margarine. So I will buy the butter requirements for us here, which again isn't a lot, and also pick up some for the daughter. Fine. Brilliant. Much healthier for the kids, the grandkids, and because I'm there, I might as well do it. Makes perfect sense. So I need the car for that. I wouldn't want to be carrying all those bags and bottles of milk on the bus and then cycle back up to the house. Not possible. Generally speaking, with regards to shopping, there is a Tesco's. I've mentioned all the supermarkets that are available. There's a lot of independent butchers. There's a lot of independent fruit and vegetable shops. But obviously here we grow most of our produce, and I'm looking forward to seeing if I get to that 500 kilo mark again this year, like we did last year. Check out the videos on the channel; you'll see what I'm talking about there. And then there's things like clothes. Now, as you can probably tell, I'm not much into my fashion. In fact, I don't really go anywhere apart from around here, scratching myself in case I've been bitten by a mozzie. So for me, clothes, it's a bit of a rarity for me to buy anything. It tends to happen if I wear out a t-shirt, for example, and I just get it online and it's delivered. Now, online shopping here is pretty straightforward. I'm going to come onto that in just 1 second, but I just want you to bear in mind one thing. We live in the middle of nowhere, but on the edge of the village rather, fairly rural. When we do online shopping, obviously it's delivered by courier. Now, this is what I love about this place. In the UK, you'll get an email. Your parcel will be delivered between the hours of 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. What's the bloody point of that? I mean, you got to sit in all day long and wait for it? Well, because I've had to do that on a number of occasions. And then you see all these stories about people turning up outside your gate, throwing it over the fence and just walking off and leaving it, or going to a different house, all kinds of nonsense. It doesn't happen here. What happens is you place the order, and so I've got a box here of something that I had to order from Amazon, because this particular thing in this box, which I'll show you in a second, I cannot buy anywhere in this country. I've looked, it doesn't exist, or they don't use it. So I've gone onto Amazon and I've ordered this. I get an email. Now, the first thing to remember is that with Amazon, not all things that I would buy from Amazon UK will be delivered to me here in Hungary. Some things are, but not everything. And if it isn't, I can change my country. So because I'm part of the EU here in Hungary, I can go to the German Amazon, which is exactly what I've done with this. And it was delivered in 4 working days, which is pretty good considering. Once I place the order with them or any other online store, you get an email confirmation, fine. As soon as it's ready to be dispatched, you get an email from the delivery company or the courier that's coming to your house. So in this particular case, it was DPD. So I get an email to tell me that this is on its way from DPD. Now, the day before they deliver, you get another email to say the same thing, that it's going to be there the following day. And you get a text message to say exactly the same thing. So that you are always kept up to date with what's going on. And obviously, you can track your passage. And on the day of the delivery, I got another email this morning, which has arrived today, got an email this morning to tell me my parcel is being delivered between 8:30 and 9:30. because I use Anna's Hungarian mobile phone, she got a text message to say exactly the same thing. And as the driver is coming into the village, he then calls you and says, I'm here, I'm driving up your road. Fine. I go out and meet him. Parcel's delivered. And it works every time. It's absolutely brilliant. Like I say, I don't have to hang around waiting for anybody. They tell me they're coming, I'll be here. Brilliant. However, there is a big issue for me with regards to online shopping here. It's not security. It's not the lack of information with regards to deliveries. And in fact, I can buy most things online here. My biggest problem is the internet. I have got a shocking internet connection here. My download speeds here average around about 20 to 21, is it megabits per second? It's not very fast. Upload speeds, it's about 9, sometimes 10. So if I want to upload this to YouTube, it's going to take me forever and a day. So I've been looking around to see what I could do about it. When I say it's slow, don't get me wrong, I can watch TV here, which I do through in our case, I use a Roku box, ROKU, which is, goes through a VPN, and then I can download all the various apps for the BBC, Channel 4, all that kind of stuff, and watch whatever I want to watch on my TV. And, Anna or anybody else can use their devices on the internet and do their stuff. It's not a deal breaker, but when I'm doing computer work, it does take a long time. So I've decided, and I've actually done it, I've ordered Starlink. So in that particular case, the actual setup cost for me works out around about £400, approximately. Okay. But the cost of the monthly service is the same as what we're paying now to our local provider. But here's the thing. The download speed I've got here is around about 2021. Starlink, what do you reckon? Over 100, near on 120. That's a massive difference, isn't it? For the same monthly fee. So that's a no-brainer. So they told me it was delivery in 2 to 3 weeks. It's actually due here this weekend. So again, pretty impressed. Let's see if it turns up or not. I'll let you know in the next video. But without doubt, having a good internet connection that's reliable with decent speeds is important for me because of the work that I do. And Anna now back at teaching, she needs to be able to have a good internet connection so that she can download the various resources she needs for her lessons. So, and what we've got at the moment isn't up for the job. So that's why we're switching over to Starlink. Bit of an upfront cost initially, but certainly worth it. So if you're ever looking at moving to a place like this or anywhere else to come to that matter, always look at the idea of Starlink because it's such a flexible operation. You can even have Starlink on a boat if you wanted to, but I'll leave that for you. Just go to starlink.com. And no, I'm not being sponsored by them either. Now I'm going to put my list on the floor because we're coming towards the end of the video, but I want to show you what's in here. It just highlights the differences in the products that are available to me that I can buy in the country and those that I can't. Now, this is for the garden. And like I said to you earlier on, the majority of the things that I buy online is for the garden. I've got to reach across and get this knife to open this up. Now, as a lot of you will know, that we grow a hell of a lot of our stuff here. And, I want to try and keep the place as tight as I possibly can. And I do have challenges here, and I've tried to adapt with a lot of the tools that I did bring over from the UK. So like my lawnmower, hedge cutters, that kind of stuff. That's all cool. But a couple of things I didn't bring over and I wish I had. And so I've had to go around looking for them. And that's what's in here. So like I say, I went online to Amazon, the German site. I could have got this from the UK, but they didn't want to send it to me in Hungary for some strange reason. I'm not quite sure the reason behind it, but anyway. So what did I get? Well, let me show you. Any ideas yet? There you go. It's a pair of long-handled edging shears so that I can cut the grass around all the beds in the vegetable garden, just to keep it a little bit neater and tidier. So it's a great example of being able to still buy the things that I'm used to having in the UK over here. It just takes a little bit of imagination. I miss PG tips, so I bought some PG tips via Amazon. Having said that, I've got addicted to the Hungarian coffee here, so I don't drink as much tea as I used to in the UK. So I've got a couple of hundred tea bags that I've had here now for the last 3 or 4 years. So if you want some tea bags, let me know. But I don't buy Marmites and that kind of stuff because I just don't see the point of it. There are some English shops here, but it's just so expensive. It isn't financially viable. It's a luxury more than anything else. You never know, though. I might go to an English shop and buy myself a Christmas pudding. But other than that, no. The point I'm getting across here is that with a little bit of imagination and a bit of research, there are alternatives. And sometimes those alternatives are better than what was available in the UK. The internet new connection we're going to get is a great example of that. I would never have a speed of 120 odd in the UK that I'm going to get here with Starlink. Downside, cost of cars is a bit more money here than there, but I don't have to MOT my car every year. It's twice a year for the same price as 1 yearly fee in the UK. So it swings and roundabouts. It's adaptable. So I still think it was worth the move. We've got an exciting few months coming up ahead. Like I say, I've started a Substack page for you to have a look at, which is a newsletter. And there'll be all sorts of other content on there. And I've got a few other projects I'm working on that's going to see me through the winter when this sun finally disappears. But for now, take care, and I'll catch you very soon.